Let's take you up on that. Talk about this conference. I mean, we had Shifaya Kwadogun talking about the conference, that the foundation has been set, how we need to live together, and on what basis. But the president there said that he was going to set up a committee to advise him, look into it. What do you think about that?
If you remember, when I was on this, show, when this question of national conference started, I said one of the greatest defects was that no legal foundation has been laid before the beginning of the conference as to how the outcome of the conference will be made into practical use. Now, you can hear Mr. President say that he has ordered the Attorney General to set up a ministerial committee. Now, many people have said that before, that at the end of this exercise, this thing is going to go to a committee. And many people said no. And this is what I was saying then, that there is no legal basis. Now, when you ask the Attorney General to set up a committee, what is he going to do? Mr. President has not told us what will happen after this committee. Is this committee going to come back again to Mr. President and recommend something? Or is Mr. President going to do something after that and send it to the National Assembly? We don't know. We live under a 1999 Constitution. Mr. President cannot act outside that Constitution. The National Assembly cannot act outside that Constitution. That Constitution has not made a provision for a new Constitution. The best that has been made for is that this Constitution can be amended by the National Assembly. The question is, what do you call an amendment?
I think that sorry to interrupt you there, but the delegates at that conference were quite conscious of that. They say that they came up with resolutions, but I think about 600 resolutions. Some of them they believe the executive and different arms of government involved can implement them without, tinkering with the laws. But even they came out with what they call, if you notice towards the end of the conference, it actually caused a furore of some sort where, people were saying this is not an amendment to the Constitution, but a draft amendment to the Constitution, which was eventually what they all agreed upon. So didn't they already quite answer that question as to what, the Presidential Ministerial Committee will be doing or should be doing?
I can assure you that many of them actually did not know what was being expected of them. I had said it on this program once. There is a poet who was being interviewed, and he said, Ofuebu, or what was his name, and I attacked him here. He said that the bunch of work they did in the National Assembly was to make amendments to the present Constitution, and that if they had known that most of these amendments had already been done by the National Assembly, they would not have wasted their time. And I said, if you knew that all these things had been done by the National, why did you sit throughout in the conference and you were participating in it? And also, my good brother, Tunji Braithwaite, made a statement that if there was not a new brand constitution, there will be no 2050 election. And I criticized him. I said, look, you participated in a conference knowing fully well that what you are doing is just amending the 1999 Constitution. If you knew no new constitution is going to come out, why did you not work out from it? The problem now is that what are we going to do with what they have agreed upon? There's no legal basis.
It's an amendment. I mean, do we need a legal
basis? An
basis?
amendment still has to be sent to the National
Assembly. And the National Assembly
and they may accept it or not. And if it falls into what they have done before, they will accept it. If it falls with what they have not done before, they have to consider it. Again, we are starting a new terrain of, debates. Where will it end? Where will it end? That is why I'm saying that we don't know what is going to happen to what has been agreed upon by the National Conference.
Nevertheless, the president has said that he will keep his promise. If he says that, if some of the resolutions are, things that can be implemented by the executive without needing any recourse to the National Assembly, I would think that that statement would also cover, doing or implementing those resolutions. But the ministerial committee must look at them to see how implementable they are, wasn't they?
Look, if the constitution is to be amended, the executive cannot do it. Mr. President cannot take action on amendment of any constitution without passing it to the National Assembly. Even if they are asking an amendment of an existing law, it still has to be passed through the National Assembly.
But that is for laws. What about executive decisions, things that can be done, with immediate? Because it made an extensive plethora of recommendations, things covering aviation, covering religion. Might not really need an amendment by law.
All these things have nothing to do with the Constitution. You see, the panel had gone into many areas that have nothing to do with the Constitution. If actually what they were enjoined to do is to give Nigeria a new hope of a constitution that will be acceptable, then what they have done is not what they were asked to do. What they have done is to look into certain areas that are executive areas and then make some suggestion to Mr. President. That is not the purpose of the conference. That is not the purpose, with due respect to them.
But the purpose of the conference was to deal with all areas that, pained Nigerians. I mean, Nigerians were not happy about, regardless of wherever they lay. I mean, whether they be in constitutional matters or they be in things that government should be doing and it's not doing.
What I can say is this. I will have an open mind. Let us see what the ministerial committee being set up will do. Let us see what they will recommend to Mr. President. And let us see what Mr. President will do thereafter. But I still believe that there is no legal basis for any genuine, change of the constitution of this country.
The other thing he talked about in that Independence Day address was the power sector. He talked about the reforms, privatization that is going on, and everybody knows that, look, once we get power right, we just may be on the verge that the man out there, the average person out there, may just begin to feel some of this. But what do you see in terms of this privatization? Is it working out as it was planned?
Yeah, I am very happy, and I give kudos to this government, there is no doubt. Because when you look at what he's doing now and what my good friend did from 1999 to 2004, I think we are getting near it now through what Jonathan is doing. Because don't forget, because we Nigerians will forget quickly, before Jonathan's regime, we had spent almost $30 billion in trying to get our electricity generation into its proper focus. There was an inquiry made by the National Assembly, I think the Elumelu inquiry. Till today, we have not had anything about it. Nigerians are yet to know what has happened to the $30 billion that was the subject of that inquiry and that has been paid to certain contractors. But let's forget that. This is a country where nobody asks questions. Now he has gone on a correct path. The only thing I criticized here before was that when he was starting it, instead of calling foreign companies immediately to come in and take charge of this thing, he still decided to call on Nigerians. And I faltered that, which I've been proved right, that why are you calling Nigerians who don't have the capital, who don't have the wherewithal in technology, to come and you are, giving them segments of the industry you want to develop, when they are still going to go back overseas to look for overseas partner. And that is what is happening now. And that was the first failure. The Nigerian companies that were giving all these contracts, couldn't have the money to even, start from the ground. And government has just given what it calls intervention money again.
But for a sector as critical as that, don't you think that we really needed to involve Nigerians in that particular, especially since we're looking at local content, we needed to involve Nigerians there so that they too can develop capacity?
You see, this is an emergency we are in. You can't run away from the fact that this is technology not within the hands of any Nigerian. We might have engineers who are good, electrical engineers, we might have, but the technology to establish this thing is not within our reach. when we wanted to start on this 808, what you call digital this thing, we didn't call on Nigerian companies to come. We called on the foreigners. But they had to bring in Nigerian partners. I am not saying that Nigerians should not be involved in this company. Definitely, they should have Nigerian partners. But such important segment, like this light, there are 3 or 4 known companies all over the world. You cannot fault it, who are masters in this area. Once we have the money, why did you not call them straight?